excited to have this amazing group presenting to us today. Welcome to our live event. We're so excited to talk to all of you about the best ways that you can stand out as a travel nurse. Before I jump to my panelists, who are incredible people here that I'm very excited for all of you to hear from, would love for you to drop in the chat where you are joining us from. We'd love to see where you are, where you're looking to go. So feel free to drop all of that in the chat. Also put those questions in. If you have something that you're curious about or something that you just maybe has been on your mind, that is what this live is for. And we would love to hear what those questions are. So I'll stop talking for a minute and introduce my incredible panel here. Maybe Audrey, I'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Audrey. I'm a senior recruiter here with AMN, and I'm based out of Southern California, Temecula area. If there's any wine lovers on the chat today, excited to talk with you all.
I think you've got wine lovers in the chat, and for sure in our panel. I will speak for myself, but Pilar also agrees. Pilar, I'll go to you next.
My name is Pilar and I'm a senior recruiter with AMN, and I'm actually been with the company about almost 9 years, going on 10. But I've been doing recruiting for, I think, all my life, 30 plus years, I think. But I love it, and I love the opportunity to be able to talk to you. So I'm excited.
Thanks, Pilar. Happy to have you. And then last but not least, Luis, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm an account manager here at AMN. I'm nearing 3 years, so it's been a wild ride. I've learned a lot. In my spare time, I like to do a lot of woodworking. I have 3 cats. One of them may try to join us in the call, hopefully not. But yeah, no, excited to speak to you all today.
The joys of working from home. I apologize if you hear screaming kids in the background. That's my reality here. So a nice cat is not even a problem. But we're so excited to have you all here. I'm excited about this topic because I feel like we're really seeing clinicians wanting to get back into or start getting into travel. We of course have tenured travelers that join us, but the question now is coming up. Luis, you talked about the crazy roller coaster ride over the last 3 years. During COVID, it was pretty easy to find an assignment. And it was really quick, right? The process, all about that. We could probably spend a whole half hour talking about the differences of that market to this market. But in this market, you have to stand out. So what we wanted to talk about with all of you today, and would love those questions. So throw them in. Also let us know where you're joining from. What we want to talk about today is how can you stand out in the current market, knowing what we know. And one of the things that we talked about in kind of our prep session was time off, right, Audrey? Talking about time off, making sure that we're really transparent about it. And I think, Audrey, talk to us a little bit about it. And then I'd love to hear from Luis on the account management side as well. But talk to us a little bit about that time off piece.
Definitely. So I think one of the most beautiful things about travel nursing is it's flexible, and you can really work when you want and need to work. So when we're talking about how to stand out in the application phase, my best professional recommendation is to save that time off for between assignments. You know, we could get you somewhere you love. And then if we're talking about an extension or somewhere new, you could take 2 to 3 weeks off in between contracts and do all of the traveling, time with your family, time with friends. But having really open scheduling availability during the time and duration of that contract is going to move your application to the top of the pile. It means that nurse managers don't have to worry about scheduling around you or trying to coordinate with their core staff that's already there. It makes you look extremely competitive to have that open availability.
Definitely. I love that, Audrey. And you're right. One of the things that I'm always jealous about from our travelers is that opportunity and flexibility to work those 13 weeks and then take a couple weeks off or take a month off and take that incredible vacation. I'm sure, Audrey, you have examples of candidates or clinicians that have done that, but would love to hear from Luis because if you don't know what an account manager is, for us, they're the people that talk to the client. So our recruiters talk to you. Our account managers talk to all those great facilities that we work with. So Luis, tell us a little bit about this time off piece from the other side, because you're getting that profile.
Yes. Yeah. I would just say a lot of it is just being transparent with your time off. So if you do have anything, just letting us know, like, one, if you're flexible, if it's a deal breaker, or if, like, for example, today I just had somebody reach out saying that they need some time off towards the end of June, and it's mainly because, or sorry, towards the end of May, but it's mainly because their son's graduating from school and they really want to go see that. Completely understandable. Things like that we can share with the client, and they'll be a lot more understanding. We're all people. And of course, echoing on what Audrey said, if you don't have time off, it's going to make you stand out. A lot of times we can auto offer, we can push your file up to the top to the client and say, hey, this clinician checks off all the boxes and they don't have time off. They can start early. They're perfect. It'll really make you stand out. And just having that upfront is key, because if it gets to us after the fact, it can just slow things down a little bit, especially when we're trying to reach out to the nurse manager and say, hey, they're perfect. And then we come back with time off and they're like, it's a catch-22 with that. So it's better to get it up front.
Yeah, it's a differentiator, right? Because if you, we have a lot of really great candidates that are submitted to our facilities, and our facilities then are saying, well, gosh, who's going to fit the needs that I have, to Audrey's point, right? Who's going to fit the schedule that I have, and the reason that I need contingent labor in the first place. I want to be clear. We're not telling you not to take time off if you have to have it, but Pilar, what kind of time off? What kind of time off are we talking here? Like, what do you tell your clinicians?
What I tell them, I know we can't avoid, obviously things happen and you have vacation plans, but
Sure.
for most of my nurses or travelers, they work 12-hour shifts. So they are able to put from Wednesday to Wednesday. It's still a week that you can plan accordingly, but it's a lot easier to get that time off approved, because you'll be working the beginning of the end of one week, the beginning of the next, so it works out for scheduling on the facility side. So the facilities are more in tune to get it, and that to be understanding of that, and you don't have to add a week, and it to the contract. So you'll be in and out, and it's a quick 13 weeks. Again, we all understand you have weddings, things that you have to and must attend. And that's what I tell my travelers. Deal breakers of time off is something you cannot miss, that you had pre-planned. Unfortunately, obviously people get married, have engagements, things that they have to attend. We understand.
Yeah.
But if you can limit it and put it so that you are making up the time, the facilities are usually pretty okay with it if it's within reason. Obviously, for a 13-weeker, I always say not more than a week. Obviously, if you're getting married and you need 2 weeks, yes, that may go with it. But like I said, the least the better.
Yeah. And I think a couple of things that you said there, Pilar, right? It's the less that you kind of put in your way. So what Luis was talking about, we can do in a lot of cases an auto offer. So if there's a facility that you really want to go to and it's the top of your list, it likely is at the top of somebody else's list too. So if you have two really good candidates and one of them has, multiple days of time off or different scheduling things that have to be addressed, and somebody who's really flexible and open, you're going to go with the flexible and open person, right, Luis? Mm-hmm. I'm guessing so. Luis is shaking his head.
100%. Yeah, it's especially, they just immediately almost skip the line in some cases. They get priority because that's exactly what our clients are asking for.
Yeah.
So, it fits their needs.
Yeah. And I think what you talked about before too, right, is making sure that you're really upfront with your recruiter on those things. And we know, of course, things happen. And you're like, gosh, I forgot about this Disney trip that my entire family is going on that I have to go to. Can we please make sure that's in my contract? So we know that those things happen. Luis, I'll maybe ask you, from that perspective, or talking about time off in general, when our candidates go to a different facility, a lot of times they can work that stuff out with the nurse manager as well, right?
Yeah, completely. Especially if it's some time off, like let's say it's only 2 days off in that week. As long as you're still able to make your weekly hours, like your 36 or your 48 or your 40, whatever you end up booking for, as long as you're able to do that, that's, we can voice that to the client as well. We'll literally say, hey, sorry, my cat is literally jumping on my desk. Okay. We can say, hey, this traveler needs, 4 days or 3 days off in the week, but they're still able to work the other 4.
Yeah.
So we can stress that to the client, or we could also say, hey, they're willing to add some time back to the end of the contract. make up for that week that they are missing out, and just spin it that way. And, hopefully, most of the time the client does understand.
Yeah, definitely. So that transparency, I think, is something else that we talk about pretty much on every podcast that we have, is just how do you really build this good recruiter candidate relationship? The more that, like Luis was saying, the more that your recruiter can share to the account manager that can then be shared to the client or the facility, the better. That transparency is going to help us all around. Pilar, maybe I'll come to you. I know we talked about a nurse that you had that had to have Friday nights off. She's a night nurse. Tell me a little bit more about that and how you manage that situation.
It basically, I know that speaking at the very onset, that for instance school, that the reason why she needed that off is because she was in school and had a night class, and she needed those Friday nights off. I usually tell them, if it can be arranged during the interview process, make sure that you discuss it, because really the key thing is that we don't approve the time off, the facility does. So they need to know upfront, as quick as soon as possible, you might say, and making that decision before offer is made, not after offer, because then that doesn't look that great doesn't look good for us or for the candidate. And it definitely, it interferes with the facility, because they were like, they had other candidates they could have offered it to. And that's why we feel that it's important to be transparent at the beginning, because even that particular request of needing every Friday off, we put it up front. This is the reason why. And usually managers are understanding and they will make accommodations. But transparency and do it in as quickly as possible, as soon as possible, is the best way to go.
Absolutely. Audrey, you look like you have something to add.
Definitely. I love what Pilar said. And I think, honestly, my most successful traveler experiences and relationships are where we really feel like a team, which is what we are. That's what I want. We're a career team. We're working towards the same goal. And the best way for me to do my job and guide you to the assignments that are going to help you grow personally and professionally are if we just have that open and honest communication. I'm friendly. I don't bite. Let's just talk about it and make sure that we get on the same page, because then I can do a better job advocating for you on the facility side. You guys don't get to talk to our account managers or to our facility contacts. That's what we do. And so I want to make sure that when I'm communicating with them, I'm presenting your case and your profile in the best possible light so we can get you the assignment that you want.
Totally. And such great points to add, Audrey. So a couple of things that Pilar and Audrey said that really stand out to me is just making sure that you have that transparency up front. We want to help you. We want to be those career counselors for you and help support whatever that next goal is. If you have to have Fridays off so that you can go to school and be an NP, we want to highlight and sell that, because now we can tell Luis, hey, we've got this really great nurse. She's actually continuing her education, which means she's going to add so much value to the facility that she wants to go to. I think then you can also, and Pilar, maybe jump back in here, we can also help you taper your expectations. If there are certain things that you have to have, it might take us a little bit longer to find a contract, right, Pilar?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Everything is possible with patience and communication. Key is communication. I've had travelers that they needed block scheduling, for instance. And I just said, okay, it's possible. Are you willing to work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday, something like that? Because facilities have more availability to grant that than during the week set schedules. So, but if we know ahead of time and you talk to the manager when you interview about it, I usually end up getting it. And I've had travel pairs do it too, because they want the same schedule. And sometimes facilities don't allow for that much flexibility, especially even if they're on the same unit. So when I've had travel pairs, I tell them that is the best way to go if you guys want to have the same schedule. Same shift is easy because the shift is days, nights, or whatever, but the same schedule is different. And that would be something that the facility would be good with. And I've had total success with having weekends only. Those are usually the ones that I get the best, approved on.
And I think to your point, and Audrey, feel free to jump in here too if you have another example, but just being aware of those things up front, being able to help you understand, okay, we're just going to have to really make sure that we are sending to all of the places that we can. Luis is probably sitting there going, as long as I've got a couple, like 2 positions open, send them my way, right? Because we want those clinicians to go to the facility and fill the need that they have. But Audrey, anything that you would add to what Pilar was saying, just from being aware, but then tempering expectations as well?
Completely. And I think this goes back to what we touched on in the beginning, is the difference between a COVID travel nursing market and what it looks like now. In that during COVID, there's thousands and thousands of jobs, and we need more people to fill the need. And now it's a little different. We could have 15 or 20 people competing for one spot because it's at a great location or it's a fantastic facility or whatever it may be. So on top of communication and transparency, flexibility is key in this market. I think it's important to remember, we as recruiters, we're not creating the jobs that we're trying to place you in. We're kind of guiding you to what the hospital needs.
Right.
So maybe it is a certain schedule, maybe it is a certain shift, or they need someone who's comfortable floating or cross-trained in this. And so at some level, we're going to have to meet them there to suit that need if you want to be on assignment. And all of that comes in conversation with your recruiter and knowing what to expect. And I think, especially at AMN here, our recruiters are really great about being super thorough on what those job expectations are early on, so that when you get there day one, there's no surprises. You know what's going on.
Yep, absolutely. I love that, Audrey. Luis, I'm going to come back to you just on this transparency conversation, and then switching us just a little bit. We do know that we have clients that are also really specific about what they have to have, even at time of submission, which might be a little bit different for our COVID travelers who are used to saying, to Audrey's point, sign me up, I'm ready to go. And there really was no precursor or pre-work to what do I have to have on my profile before I'm actually presented to the facility. Luis, what would you maybe add there? Because you have seen that roller coaster.
Yeah, I mean, there is certain certifications that are always required up front. For example, certain hospitals require the MBS CSA certification. It's a deal breaker, or they require the NCCT cert for, surgical technicians, or they require the TNCC certification for the ER nurses. Right. Having those up front, us being able to put our hands on it or our eyes on it and say, yes, we know you have it. You're going to be a great fit for this location. Without it, I'm almost hesitant to send a file because it's hard to guarantee that, hey, yes, they have it. The nurse manager feels more confident when they can also see it in your packet, because we do send it. Yeah. So all that, I believe, is done through the Passport app as well. It can be added and uploaded and easily done. So as much as you can upload all the certifications, valid certifications, put it in there because it goes a long way.
Absolutely. And Pilar, I saw you immediately jump off of mute. So talk to us a little bit more about Passport app and some of the great things that our travelers can do to help themselves stand out.
Yeah, I totally, I'm a believer that the better prepared you are, and some of it is at your fingertips, which is the AMN Passport app or the website, and you have control. You see what is needed. As a nurse, you know that your certifications are needed, your driver's license if you want to upload that, because you're going to need it for identification. You need it to verify your compact license, and that is needed, believe it or not. That's why we ask for it early on. We ask for your date of birth and certain key information from you, so that we can send your profile. References are so important. References are the key, you might say, as well as your checklist, which we can't do anything if you don't do your skills checklist. That's one of the things that we asked from the beginning is checklist, references, and I say any certifications you have, your driver's license or your nursing license, we verify that. So if all that is checked off, it's a perfect file. And and the nurse, like I said, the nurse managers are gonna quick to look at that file versus the one that is
Right.
doubtful or has a little
Right.
bit or doesn't have the reference. So we don't know that yet. Like, even though we can send it to some of our
Sure.
facilities that are exclusive without references, we still need to have it before
At
you
some
even
point,
start
right? Yeah.
your contract. So
Yeah.
rather get it out of the way.
Such good points, Pilar. And a couple things that you hit on there. One, Passport app, utilize it for everything, right? You can search for jobs. You can, to Luis's point, have it as your credentialing wallet to upload all of your documents and have them in one place, which is great. You're going to need them for us at some point, but you'll likely need them for another travel agency as well. So being able to kind of house those all in one place is awesome. The other thing that you talked about is something that's drastically different, right? Audrey, I'll come to you in just a second, is references. We didn't need references during COVID. Everybody was just saying, give me a clinician. I have a need. I've got to take care of my patients. And now we're in this reset where we're going back to, well, let me have a reference. I really want to see what this fit is like for my particular facility and how this person will fit into my culture. Audrey, tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. I think at this stage, the way the market is now, references can be the separator for profiles. A facility could receive 2 applications that have very similar experience and tenure and skills. But if one person's got a great reference on file versus the other, I see that person getting the offer. And I think that's the most beautiful feature of the Passport app is you can do same day references now. Once you're on a travel assignment, you establish rapport with that charge nurse or your preceptor or whoever. You've got a good relationship, good communication going. You can go right into the app, add them under your current assignment details, and they get the email same day. And now you've got an excellent reference on file from a travel assignment, which, 13 weeks, it's hard to build that relationship, but it can go that quickly. And now for your next travel assignment, your file looks that much better. So it makes a huge difference. And as we transition more into this kind of market, it's important to keep track of them and get them added.
Yeah, definitely. Tell us more about Luis, from the account management side and maybe what you're seeing as a difference at this point.
Yeah, some clients do really need it upfront. There's some clients that require it before we even send the file. There's also some clients that don't need it right away. They do need it before the clinician starts. And that's where things can get tricky, especially if we get to a week before the clinician's about to start and we don't have a reference and it is a it is a requirement. It could be state, it could be just hospital requirement, but it is required at the end of the day. And that could prevent you from actually starting on time. And the other thing to think about there is some clients don't have start dates every week. It could be every other week. So that could push you from starting another 2 weeks out. The client doesn't want that. And then of course you guys probably don't want that. So it's just having it early on is key. Like Audrey was saying, trying to get it done while you're there is key, building that relationship. And then just overall, not burning bridges. I think with any role, you just want to keep a good relationship with whoever you're working with. Build that rapport early on and just build a strong relationship with your leaders, charge nurses, and your team in general. And ask for those early on as quickly and as early as possible.
Yeah, definitely. And I think some good things there, right, Luis, is it does help you stand out, not burning those bridges, asking upfront, just being open about knowing that you're going to have references. A lot of times face-to-face is easier than having to track down a nurse manager or a charge nurse after you've left an assignment. Pilar, I know you had some good advice for candidates who maybe haven't started traveling yet. And might be a little bit nervous to ask for a reference. But with what Luis said, sometimes it's a state requirement and we have to have those things in order to actually get you started. What good verbiage do you give to your candidates when they're in this kind of like, I'm not sure that I want to travel yet. I haven't told my current hospital that I want to travel. Tell me a little bit more because you had some good stuff there.
Yeah. I basically tell them nurses usually have some of my nurses have multiple jobs, or they work per diem here, or work a side hustle here. And I tell them, you can work, it could be any manager or charge nurse that you worked with in the past 3 years. So people move around. So maybe not as your direct manager now, but maybe a past manager or a past charge nurse that,
Mhm.
they don't have anything invested, but they know they have you invested, that because you were good, you were a good nurse. So
Mm.
go to those people. Don't think just short term or a small box. Think
Right,
outside the box.
right.
To get them without really feeling comfortable that your manager doesn't know yet what we want to do. But if you get them early on, or you can say, well, I'm signing with a per diem agency, and I just need a name and phone number, and or you can do it online real quick. Would you mind doing it for me? Most of the time they're going to work with you because you're a good nurse.
Yeah.
So what are you afraid of? It's like a lot of people work multiple jobs or have per diem on the side or whatever. So it works out. Like, think
Yeah,
outside the box, not be afraid of getting them, because the earlier you get it,
the
the more
better.
you're prepared for getting that opportunity that pops up,
Yeah.
that is a perfect position, because by the time we get a reference, the job could be filled.
Totally. And it is required in a lot of areas. So I love
Mhm.
that, Pilar. Just asking the question, right? And it doesn't have to be someone that's your manager right this second. It could be a charge that you work with really closely. But knowing who those people are and getting the references on file even before you're even saying, hey, yep, sign me up. I'm ready to look for jobs. It's just one less thing for you to worry about. Luis, I know you had some additional points here from the AM side.
Yeah, I think it's just like in your own personal career and in mine, for me, just being comfortable with being uncomfortable goes a
Mhm.
long way. It's a motto that I've lived by for a long time. And it's just having some conversations that may seem difficult, but they're not. You just got to break that ice, move on. A lot of people want, especially the people that are working with you and see that you're doing a good job. They want you to, continue your career and expand and do greater things. So asking for references is just a professional courtesy, and I think
Yeah.
anybody is really open to that as long as you ask. You will
Yeah.
never know if you don't ask.
Exactly. And I love that. Just being a little bit comfortable with being uncomfortable. That is the name of the game in travel nursing. Audrey, I feel like you're shaking your head at that one. There's going to be a lot of uncomfortable or new, I think is a good word for it too, right? New scenarios that you're going to be placed into because this whole world is different and changes all the time. Audrey, what would you add?
I think that's exactly right. One of my favorite things to do in my role is sometimes throw out assignments or options that we never would have expected a nurse would be interested in. And those sometimes are the best experiences. For example, obviously, I'm here on the West Coast and I work with a lot of nurses from the Southeast region. And
Yeah.
a lot of them have never traveled outside of their home state before. They've never worked away from home. And I have gotten people, we've worked through the California license process. We got them out here. I had two just in the last year who moved here full time
I
because
love
they loved Orange County so much. And it was like this completely new, life changing. They just never even thought to come out here, and they did. And she's living here now. We got lunch just a couple months ago. Like, it was the most amazing. And she resisted at first. She was like, I don't know. It's so far from my family. I'm just not sure. And it worked out beautifully. So be open to that, discomfort and newness, because it can change your life and you can end up somewhere you never thought you'd be.
Absolutely. You can be someplace that you never thought you would be. You can meet people you never thought you would meet. We've had, I mean, I'm sure, Pilar, you probably have this story at least of, somebody meeting their significant other on a unit and getting married. We have so many great stories of people
Yeah.
finding other people or finding parts of themselves that they just didn't really know were accessible or available to them. And that's probably my favorite thing about back in the day being a travel nurse recruiter, but also hearing all of the stories that we have on our podcast now is what does this travel assignment mean for you, for any of your candidates? Pilar, I saw you come off mute, so would love to hear what you have to say.
I have a similar story where travelers don't think that they can stretch themselves. I had an ER nurse back in the day, I want to say like 10 years ago. He was a male ER nurse, and he's a New York licensed nurse, and he was working in upstate New York, smaller hospital. And then I said, I want to get you to our exclusive client in New York City. He goes, New York City? Oh, no, no. I don't know. I can't find housing. I'm like, we'll get you housing. He goes, oh, no, no. How am I going to take my car? You don't need a car. Leave your car at home and just take the train. And you're only an hour and a half from home, and you can visit your kids on the train, Amtrak. Like,
Yeah.
and everything that he would say, no, no, no. And then he was in the middle of divorce, so he wouldn't want to go too far away. So I said, New York would be perfect. And he got to New York after all this. He started, and he's like, I can't believe it. You changed my life. And to this day, he goes, you changed my life. I'm a foodie. He was 10 minutes, 15 minutes away from his favorite restaurants. And he just loved the vibe in New York City.
Of
And
course.
he just, and he learned even be bilingual, because he was at a bilingual type of campus, and his patients gave him a little bit insights of different, how to say dolor, like pain and all this stuff. So he was
I love
bilingual.
that.
So he was like, you changed my life. I am so sorry that I gave you such a hard time.
Yeah.
And now he's a travel nurse. 10 years later, he's still traveling.
Oh my gosh, I love that. What a great way for us to wrap up this podcast with just hearing some of these stories. And I'm sure we have a million more. Maybe on one of our future podcasts, you can let us know if this sounds exciting, but we can tell you all of the stories of our travelers, and probably more than we could possibly tell in 30 minutes. But I'll go around just one more time, and maybe Luis, I'll start with you. Any last minute words of advice you have for our listeners as they think about travel nursing or continue their careers within travel?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we just want the same thing you want. We want to guide you, support you, and help our clients. What you guys are doing is beautiful. You're helping people, and I mean, there's just no better way to explain it. You're helping people, and you're doing it across the nation. So we know it's crazy hard. We know it's difficult, but we're here to support you. Again, we all want the same thing. We want to support you. We're here for it, and I don't have anything else to add. Thank you for all you do. I should say that. Thank you for all that you do.
Thanks, Luis. That's perfect. Pilar, what about you?
Yeah, I love what I do because I impact my nurses and obviously impact the goal of getting nurses to patients. At the end of the day, that's all we want, because we're thinking of that patient. So I really love my nurses, and I love what I do because I make them happy, right? And that's what we're here for, to make them happy, as well as our clients. Of course, within reason. I joke around. I'll say, as long as I don't do anything illegal, I'm good. Okay. So they're like, okay. And that is it. It's having fun. Travel is one of those things that once you do it, you may love it. And you'll never know until you do it. And I think there's nothing, like I said, in life that it's worth doing that is not a little bit of a risk and scary to do, and even as the avid traveler or the veteran travelers, they still have their thing, and they still want their wants and whatever, but they know already what they want, and they keep doing it until they retire. So that's really good. So go for it. I always say, just go for it. Life's too short. Yeah.
It is. Yep. And you never know. You could end up in New York City and have a great restaurant right down the street from you, or so many other stories, I'm sure, Pilar, that you have. Audrey, I'll wrap it up with you. Tell us a little bit or just your final thoughts here.
Definitely. I love what Luis and Pilar said, and I think it's exactly right. My best advice is don't be afraid to give it a try. Assignments are 13 weeks. It's 3 months, and it flies by insanely fast. And regardless of what your experience on assignment is, you're going to walk away with something new. And as your recruiter, as your advocate, as your ally in this journey, I think it's amazing. And I look at my job as I get to talk to fun and interesting people all day long.
Totally.
And that's what I do 40 hours a week. So I love it. I look forward to working with more people in the future, and call me and we'll figure it out, and we'll find the right place for you.
I love that, Audrey. Yes, if you're looking for a recruiter, you've got two really great ones right here. So feel free to call in and get connected to them. I will just shout out, we have some listeners from Costa Rica. Hi, Victor. We have some from Zimbabwe and then some from Idaho. So all over the place, which is awesome. Thank you all for joining us. If you're listening back, thank you for watching and for hearing what we have to say. Please reach out if you do have questions. We love all of you, and we want to be here as your career counselors and career guidance kind of people to help you with what those next steps are. Thank you to my panel, and just one huge big thank you to all of our clinicians that are listening out there. Join us next time. Bye all.
Bye, everyone.